What if I told you that one simple, inexpensive powder could sharpen your mind, torch stubborn fat, and supercharge your energy, all without any complicated routines or expensive programs? Imagine something so well studied, so safe, and so effective that scientists keep uncovering new benefits years after it made waves. It's not exotic, it's not locked away in some secret vault, it's something very cheap that almost anyone can use. And for those of us over age 60, its effect can be truly transformative. Research shows it can improve memory, mental function, and even reduce the feelings of fatigue in old age. Now, I'm not here to pitch a gimmick or a miracle cure. I'm here to talk about science, what actually works, and how we can use proven tools to stay sharp, energetic, and active as we age. Today, we are diving deep into one of the most powerful and misunderstood supplements out there, L-carnitine and its acetyl-carnitine version. We're gonna speak about both of them. We're gonna break down how exactly these work, the right ways to use them, why just a small daily dose could make a huge difference in your brain, body, and overall vitality. I've been taking this supplement over 14 years now, and I don't sell supplements. I don't have a connection to any company that does. This is the good thing about turning down every sponsor and not selling any products. I can look at the data objectively, and I'm comfortable. I have no conflict of interest. Now let's break down how this supplement affects your body and the clinical results. Imagine giving your brain a nutrient that actually slips past the blood-brain barrier, walks straight into your brain, the control room, and start turning up the neurotransmitters. That's what acetyl-L-carnitine does with messengers like acetylcholine. Studies have found that people with depression often have lower levels of it, and the supplementation actually eases depressive symptoms in some individuals. And this mental benefit, this brain performance benefit, also translates into healthy aging. In clinical trials, older adults taking 1 to 3 grams per day didn't just feel better, they actually scored higher on memory and cognitive tests, even though they started with mild memory loss or early dementia. But it's not just your brain where acetyl-carnitine works best, it's your entire body's energy, physical energy. Carnitine sends fatty acids into the mitochondria so they can be burnt cleanly for fuel. In studies, older men and women who took this supplement reported something very simple but powerful: more energy in the morning, less afternoon crash, and an easier time getting through both workouts and long days. So instead of feeling like your tank is half empty by lunchtime, it's like upgrading to a more efficient engine that makes better use of the fuel you already have, the food that you already consume. Now, would that also upgrade your exercise stamina? Yes. You can think of acetyl-carnitine as a fat shuttle that escorts the fat into the power plants in your muscles. And by teaching your muscles to lean more towards fat as fuel, carnitine can support endurance and help you go longer in training and smooth out the recovery afterwards. And now you may ask, if it helps you to burn fat, will it help you to lose weight? It can turn a stored fat into usable power indeed, because meta-analysis show that people using carnitine supplements on top of the diet and exercise lose a bit more weight, about 2 to 4 extra pounds compared to the placebo groups. But it's not a magical pill, it just nudges your metabolism in the right direction. Now, should you take it? Not so quickly. Your gut bacteria can make this supplement into something very problematic. It's called TMAO. But worry not, I will guide you today exactly with a very special strategy I developed how to overcome this issue and still get the benefits of acetyl-carnitine and L-carnitine. But don't tell anyone, it's quite creative. So how do you take it? This conversation was recorded live with my inner circle group. Every fine-tunement is critical because we're going to compound that over the element of time, right? Because we're going to take those supplements for decades. The dose, the timing, the separation of the supplements with food, without food, all those things, the right brands, for example, all those things, they make a huge difference. And also it's good for you to understand, why do you even take the supplement? Maybe after this conversation, you decide to drop the supplement if you take it, okay? That's completely legitimate. I'm going to tell you what I do, but you can decide that based on your situation, this supplement doesn't make a lot of sense. So the big question is, does carnitine still justify itself as a supplement? Maybe it's not a high priority supplement. And is the conclusion is the same for me as in 2011? The first thing we need to ask, like the benefits of carnitine, because when you go to the benefits, you can actually begin to reevaluate whether it justifies taking it at all. There are two types of supplements, L-carnitine and acetylcarnitine. They have overlapping benefits, but they are slightly different benefits. L-carnitine, acetylcarnitine, both of them, they help the body to burn fatty acids, especially long-chain saturated fat. And this is important, if you eat butter, if you eat cacao or dark chocolate or animal fat, if you eat meat, you're going to have saturated fat. The problem with these fats, they are not easy to burn. And if you don't oxidize them properly, they can actually get stuck in the cells and actually can cause problems in the mitochondria as well. Studies show that if your muscles cannot burn those saturated fat, the cell muscle actually can become senescent cell. It becomes old. So you want to give your body all the help it can to burn those long chain fatty acids, any fats actually. And this is more important, I think, for us because, if you're on a high fat diet, so you want to make sure that the fat that you eat actually get burnt. So that's one of the benefits of L-carnitine. It basically takes the fat and helps it to be burned in the mitochondria, in the power plants. So that's number one. The reason number two to take the supplement is under stress or fasting, and we try to mimic fasting, right? The body needs to burn more fat, right? The body relies more on fat oxidation, and carnitine really becomes more crucial. The irony is that our bodies really depends on carnitine from food. The body makes carnitine, but also depends on food. I'm going to speak about it later. But you fast, or you do, let's say you do FMD or something, you burn a lot of fat, but you don't get the carnitine from the outside. So there is this value when you stress your body or when you fast to give your body something to help it to burn fat. Another issue is, by the way, when you follow a lower protein diet, the body makes less carnitine naturally, so you need more from the outside. I'm going to speak about it later. The third reason to take L-carnitine is to increase the overall vitality and energy of your body. Part of being young is feeling young, and when you have more energy, more vitality, you literally feel young, and carnitine helps the body to be more energetic. It improves the mood. Possibly the body is going to have more energy to repair damage. So theoretically, your body can make more efficient energy, and take that energy to repair the damage. Also, it has been used with people with weak hearts, with angina, to help the heart resist stress and not having a secondary heart attack, for example. So it could be that L-carnitine helps the heart to sustain stress, right? Because how people get a heart attack, really, there is a stress, the heart cannot maintain the stress, then there is an attack. Maybe the stress would come from blocked arteries, for example, but there's still going to be some kind of stress the heart cannot sustain. Maybe L-carnitine can protect us from, acute, maybe life happens and you have extreme stress in your life. The heart can use L-carnitine to produce more energy from fat. Another thing that L-carnitine does, it helps with metabolic flexibility. Nature provides carnitine in mother's milk because nature gives the baby sugar, but also a lot of fat. And probably L-carnitine is supposed to help the baby to switch between glucose and fat and not have the issue of not being able to burn the fat because of the presence of sugar. So maybe it can help the body to change. You eat something with a bit of carbs, you're going to burn that, you're going to go back to fat burning. That's the point. Another thing that L-carnitine does, this is specifically acetylcarnitine, I'm going to speak about in a second. Acetylcarnitine, your brain, your nervous system, they cannot burn fat for energy. So then you may wonder, why do you even need the L-carnitine? So what happens is that when the acetylcarnitine gets into your brain, it breaks down to acetyl and to L-carnitine. L-carnitine does not help the brain to burn fat. What it does, it helps the brain to remove some junk from the mitochondria, a junk called acyl-CoA. So the brain can take the carnitine that you took from the supplement, connect it to acyl, and extract it outside of the cell. The second way that acetylcarnitine can help the brain, that the acetyl part can help create acetyl-CoA, which is basically a neurotransmitter. And also acetyl-CoA has been shown to help in neurological rejuvenation and regeneration. So this is very important, if there is some brain damage or when we grow older, the brain rejuvenation capacity goes down. Maybe you have an Alzheimer in the family. So it could be, there is no data, absolute data about this, as you know. I mean, there is data in animals that acetylcarnitine helps in brain rejuvenation in rats more than L-carnitine. But it could be that for Alzheimer's, for example, if you have a risk, then maybe it could help rejuvenate the brain. The acetyl group does two things to the L-carnitine. The first one is allows the molecule cross into the brain more easily. And once inside the acetyl and the carnitine, they separate, And then the acetyl part helps with the neurotransmitter balance, especially making acetylcholine. And that leads to neurological growth and plasticity. Another thing I changed in my thinking, even though the neurons cannot burn fat, I didn't know that, but actually the system that supports your neurons actually can burn fat and actually can use L-carnitine. So the cells that generate and create new neurons, they can burn fat. Simply the neurons cannot burn fat, but the neurons use L-carnitine to remove junk, as I explained. So all these reasons, even if it's not going to make you live longer, it's going to make you feel more vital, going to remove more junk from different tissues, it's going to protect younger muscles, younger tissues. So all in all, it seems like supporting aging. One of the things I discovered is that L-carnitine and acetylcarnitine are not really the same. I just assumed that acetylcarnitine just penetrates the brain better, but actually there are some differences between these two. You should know that L-carnitine and acetyl-L-carnitine, they work slightly different. And also the studies on them are a bit different. So, for example, a recent study in worms was the first direct lifespan study on L-carnitine, and it showed 10% increase in lifespan in worms. Okay, it appears to have slightly different effect on the mitochondria from acetylcarnitine. L-carnitine has a slightly more mitochondrial support and systemic fat burning. And we also have worm lifespan data, which we do not have for acetyl-carnitine. Acetyl has more effect on the brain, on the nerves, but it also supports the mitochondria. If you take higher doses, L-carnitine is absorbed better than acetylcarnitine, you should know, as well. That was discovered in the recent 2025 human study. My point here is that we may actually need both of them, maybe rotated supplements. They're not exactly the same. I think, like, based on these benefits, that the acetyl becomes more important after age 65. I think especially, women have more Alzheimer's and brain shrinkage. So I think the acetyl makes more sense because of the brain protection. If the brain has tendency to shrink, taking something that provides acetylcholine that helps with growth of new neurons makes sense. Another thing I checked is the effect of L-carnitine on autophagy, because, as we mentioned in the past, anything that is going to be good for autophagy is going to be good for longevity. L-carnitine directly can induce autophagy and restore high-fat diet, induce mitochondrial dysfunction in rodents, in animals, in the liver and the muscle. So if you put animals on poor diets, L-carnitine can actually help to induce autophagy, which is good. Acetylcarnitine in certain mouse models can help to induce autophagy as well. So all in all, the supplement seems pro-longevity, even though the data is incomplete. Like the ITP never tested acetylcarnitine. Personally, I would not expect this specifically to increase lifespan of mice, because I don't see how it's going to reduce cancer. But I think, to me, it does support the overall longevity strategy. Then, if we actually go to the longevity diet or longevity lifestyle, it plays even an important role, because my suggestion is to eat mostly plant-based up to age 65. So we don't gonna get from plants the L-carnitine at all. Also, we limit protein for longevity, right? And when you limit protein, well, the body can make less L-carnitine on its own, because the body makes carnitine from lysine and methionine. Both of them are pretty much very low in plant-based diets and higher in animal foods. So not only you don't get the carnitine from the outside, you supply less building block for the body to make L-carnitine, so you need more from the supplement. So definitely, if you're a vegan, you absolutely have to take some L-carnitine. And at the same time, when you go very low carb, when you go lower protein, the only thing you have got to eat is basically fat and fiber. And some of the fats, kind of saturated fat, like we mentioned, butter, dark chocolate, even, all of the nuts may need some help to burn. And especially saturated fat are not easy to burn, and they can get stuck in the muscle, like we mentioned, and they can drive cellular senescence. So all of that create a picture that on our specific lifestyle, L-carnitine plays even an important role than what we normally have. So all that leads to my current position that I still recommend that, but I classify L-carnitine as a level 2 supplement, meaning the way I see that, we have the basic foundation of supplements everyone should take, omega-3, magnesium, vitamin D. Then we have like level 1 youth preservation molecules, like taurine, astaxanthin, all of these. And then we have level 2. So they're useful, but if you're overwhelmed by supplements, this is one of the things you can actually skip if it doesn't make sense to you. I've been taking L-carnitine, acetylcarnitine specifically, for 14 years. Besides last year, I've been taking 1 gram twice a day, so 2 grams a day. Last year, I changed that to 500 milligrams. Then my aging test of the muscles show that I have a decade younger muscles in my body. So I thought maybe the 1 gram makes sense. So I reverted to 1 gram. I started this in 2011 based on a recommendation by Dr. Ron Rosedale. In Dr. Ron Rosedale's perspective, one of the best ways to reduce aging is to help your body to burn fat. In November 2025, the study forced me to go back and review everything I know, everything we know about the supplement. And I'm going to present to you many things that were new even for me. I still take it myself, but we still have the main problem that I wanted to speak about today, which is not carnitine itself, but the fraction that is not absorbed. This is what the issue. Now, this is a big surprise from 2025. Acetylcarnitine and L-carnitine, there are two levels of absorption. The first one is up to 80 milligrams per dose. In that situation, there is a unique transporter in your gut that is designed to absorb L-carnitine. It's the same transporter that babies have to absorb L-carnitine from mother's milk. So you have that as well in your gut. And the first 80 milligrams are going to have a good absorption. Once you go over 80 milligrams, the absorption rate reduced dramatically. And that's become a huge issue. We speak about only 10% absorption over 80 milligrams. So 90% of the carnitine, acetylcarnitine over 80 milligrams they're not absorbed, and they reach the gut bacteria. And the issue is that this 90%, it can get to the colon, and if you eat meat, the bacteria will convert that to TMAO. I mean, practically, it's not really the bacteria that does it. The bacteria makes it something called trimethylamine, TMA, and then the liver see that as a very dangerous molecule, then it converts that into TMAO. And that's going to go directly into your bloodstream. So again, it's not the L-carnitine that is the problem, it's the unabsorbed part that goes to the colon. And if you eat meat, you're going to have bacteria that are going to make it into TMAO, essentially. The end product is going to be TMAO. When I say a lot of meat, I would have to stress it's going to be red meat and pork. Poultry has a lower effect, and fish won't have this effect on this bacterial population. If you eat mostly vegetarian, the picture is slightly different. The bacteria that produce this TMAO out of our supplement, they need meat-rich environment. They do not thrive in a plant-dominant microbiomes. What happens when you eat a lot of fibers, polyphenols, and short-chain fatty acids from the fiber? They suppress this bacteria and they help other bacteria to grow that do not make TMAO. So basically, your production of TMAO is going to go down pretty dramatically. You're still going to make some, but it's going to be way lower than what they found in the 2025 study. In the 2025 study, all the humans there, they all ate meat. But still, I think we need, even if you're vegetarian, we need to be a bit careful. I'm going to explain, and we're going to go into TMAO, but I think, when we speak about lifelong habit, we need to be conservative. And even if, who knows, maybe you're going to have, even if you're a vegetarian, you may have a bit of bacteria that make TMAO. So I think we need to design a protocol that minimizes TMAO by design. One of the questions I had is, if vegetarians take L-carnitine, acetylcarnitine, maybe that would feed the TMAO producing bacteria and help them to grow. The answer is no. These bacteria, they still need meat to grow. And especially, a lot of the things we are doing, olive oil, they don't like it. It suppresses the growth. Resveratrol, specifically resveratrol, suppresses the growth of these bacteria. So a lot of the things we are doing actually are going to suppress these bacteria and their ability to make TMAO out of L-carnitine. There are two ways how we can get TMAO. The first one is when we eat meat with carnitine inside, or when you take a supplement, L-carnitine or acetylcarnitine. The second way is when you eat fish, because they use the TMAO to deal with the pressure in the sea. So actually fish, for them, TMAO is actually a nutrient that helps them to deal with the pressure in the sea. Humans, it's not a nutrient at all. It's just junk the body tries to remove. So what's the issue with TMAO? TMAO levels in the blood in humans are strongly associated with cardiovascular disease, vascular inflammation, and diabetes. And this is a debate that has been going on, I think, like 10, 15 years right now. Scientists have been trying to prove that a direct cause, that TMAO causes the cardiovascular disease and diabetes. And they have not been very successful so far. But mechanistically, it seems that there was one mechanistic study that showed that if you have inflamed, damaged blood vessels, high TMAO may worsen the situation. The big problem having TMAO in circulation means that you have poor kidney function, and poor kidney function is directly associated with disease and death. So it could be that having more TMAO in circulation simply means that you have issues with the kidneys. Definitely, this is one thing you need to know is that if you have kidney issues, I would not recommend carnitine supplementation because of that, because it would mean that your body cannot easily remove TMAO. So the question is, TMAO, is how big of a worry is it for us? The emerging picture so far is that TMAO is probably more a marker, possibly minor player if you already have an issue with your cardiovascular disease. So TMAO really reflects that you have a lot of microbiome that can produce large amount of TMA. It reflects that you have kidneys that cannot efficiently clear TMAO. And it reflects possibly a situation where you have vascular inflammation, that TMAO may amplify the damage. But it seems that if your body can remove this TMAO well, you don't have a problem, okay? But my point is, when you think about the supplement, if you have chronic inflammation, if you have high ApoB, if you have kidney issues, TMAO can become problem of a toxic burden on your body. And when you think about it, it makes sense. If you have massive amount of inflammation, now you have a junk that the kidneys try to remove, they do not remove that, it floats in your blood. I mean, I can definitely see how it can inflame the situation. So if you have already inflamed situation, the kidneys cannot remove this garbage, you can definitely have a problem. But it seems that TMAO itself is not the core villain. And also, you should know that fish, they have a lot of TMAO when you eat fish. And fish is not associated with higher mortality, actually the opposite, actually associated with longevity. So let me clarify this situation. So when you consume fish, you consume TMAO. This does not go through the gut and the bacteria. It comes directly from the fish, and still fish extends life. Eating fish instead of other type of protein extends life. So that's a good indication that probably TMAO is not a huge issue, if it is an issue. But still, we want to minimize TMAO and want to increase absorption from the supplement. The good news is many of the things we're already doing are going to reduce TMAO production, because plant-dominant diet up to age 65, these bacteria that you're going to nourish, they do not make TMAO. The second is fiber. These TMAO-producing bacteria, they don't like fiber. And polyphenols, like we mentioned, resveratrol, if you consume high-quality olive oil, if you consume berries, all of these have polyphenols. These bacteria that make TMAO don't like them. They suppress the growth of TMAO. Also, exercise suppresses these bacteria. And of course, if you're healthy, then you have healthy kidney function. Your body clears TMAO directly. If you eat a mostly plant-based, lower protein, high-fat longevity diet, you have good kidney function, you take your resveratrol, you consume fiber, you consume olive oil, polyphenols, you exercise, you're going to have very few bacteria that make TMAO anyhow. Another thing that I wanted you to see, like, basically TMAO is almost a reflection of your lifestyle, in the sense that, if you eat plants, fiber, olive oil, exercise, have good kidney function, TMAO levels in your blood are basically a reflection of the lifestyle. So it makes sense to me why people with high TMAO are going to have issues with diabetes, cardiovascular disease. It actually makes sense. The association actually makes sense. It almost captures your lifestyle in many ways. All of that actually reduces the worry from the supplement, in my opinion, for healthy individuals, as opposed to people with diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and kidney problems. Do you have any questions before I'm going to go to the strategy? Should we test TMAO? Can we test for it? I think it's a very interesting test, to be honest, because it tells you so many things. It tells you about if you have good microbiome, okay? Because these bacteria that make TMAO, they make a lot of other bad things. So it's going to give you an indication. Maybe I need to take more probiotics, for example. Interesting test for people with risk of cardiovascular disease. I think it's a very interesting test. It tells so many things. It tells you about the kidney function. It's a very fast kidney function before you have kidney issues. So it gives you faster result than EGFR, for example, or creatinine. So it tells you about that, tells you about your lifestyle, it tells you about your polyphenol content, tells you about your exercise. It's actually a very good, very direct test into what gut bacteria does. So let's speak about the strategy. What's going to be the strategy to minimize TMAO and maximize L-carnitine activity and absorption? This video is too long, but we still need to speak about L-carnitine and acetyl-carnitine products, the brands, the doses, and the routine. This will be covered in the next video. So this was just one supplement. Now you can see the complexity behind every supplement that you take, the routine, the avoidance of the side effects, and all of that needs to be updated as the new research comes out. Because this video was produced after a November 2025 human study on L-carnitine. Now, if you are overwhelmed by the amount of research,
and the complexity of supplements, and you want to simplify it in your routine, maybe you want to check what I buy and what I take personally. I created a list, but it's not a random list. It's a real world stack organized by a goal: energy, cognition, inflammation, metabolic health, sleep, and above everything, keeping your body young. This is my personal passion. And for this 2026 update of my supplement routine, there were 12 major changes based on the newest research. And inside this list, I don't just mention the supplement I take. I'm also going to show you the brands I'm buying. I'm going to tell you the exact dose. And most importantly, it's practical. I explain the timing, the dose, the protocol, exactly how you use it. When you take these supplements with food, without food, in the morning, before sleep. So all of that is going to synergize exactly into your perfect routine. So to get my 2026 update, go to wellnessmessiah.com/list.